The people of God and the government are different. The leaderships are completely different. I do believe it's easier to lead with a decree than to lead with a gentle spirit and just by example. And I remember a paper I wrote, this is in your notes, on forceful men. That was back in 2003. We wrote our book on parenting where we advocated this kind of a style, not the forceful style, but definitely a very firm style, not believing that we can control people, even our own children. We have to manage what we can do, but we can't manage the outcomes. And then there's another article on driven men, 2005. I hope if you haven't read these, you'll take a look at them. And I hope I don't seem to be minimizing the need for zeal. We greatly need men and women of zeal, but biblical zeal is quite different to zeal as commonly interpreted. This we explored in the Phineas podcast. Well, here's the question. Are you a man or woman of zeal? I have to ask myself that question. We all get in a comfortable routine from time to time. Are we zealous? Are we fiercely loyal to the cause of God? Do others see my zeal for the Lord? Do I sometimes go too far? Do I hold back for fear I'll make a mistake? So it's not enough just to say, whoa, Jehu went too far, I'll just play it safe. No. Zeal is still a biblical requirement. One other thing that's a really important question. Am I reckless? Jehu drove recklessly. That seems to be consistent with his overstepping his commission. Are our lives out of control? It's wonderful to be consumed with fire, the fire of commitment and passion, as we see in John 2 and Psalm 69. Yes, 1,000 times yes. It's possible to go too far. Well, finally, as we end all of our podcasts, what do we learn about God from our study of this man, Jehu? I see three things. God may use us for his purposes, but that hardly means he approves of everything we do. Second, in Old Testament times, God allowed a degree of violence among his people. But of course, he allowed many things that are not permitted today. And third, in Jesus only is the perfect will of God revealed, which is love for enemies. I'd like to revisit each of these insights. God may use us for his purposes. Like Pharaoh, he used Pharaoh. In a way, he even used Saul of Tarsus as a persecutor. In part, that led to the scattering of the church in Acts 8. He may use us for his purposes, as he did Jehu, but that doesn't mean he necessarily approves of all that is done, even in that zeal. Second, in Old Testament times, God allowed violence among his people. He allowed warfare, Deuteronomy 20, polygamy, Deuteronomy 21, capital punishment, Deuteronomy 22, giving outsiders a worse business deal than God's people, Deuteronomy 23, divorce, Deuteronomy 24. Just read the Old Testament. It's very different to the New Testament. Rules have changed. The Sermon on the Mount shows us that God has raised the bar. And that brings us to the third and final insight, which is in Jesus Christ we see the perfect will of God revealed, which is a way of relating to others in his kingdom that's totally different to how the world treats people. In fact, we're called to love our enemies. Christ alone embodied that perfect balance, and let us strive to be like our Lord.